Troubling incident. Two people are arrested, accused of having sex acts with animals. Hartford police say a tip and evidence, including photos and videos, led to the arrest of Kimberly Dockery and Matthew Dockery. Officers say they safely recovered two dogs and seized several electronic devices. Kimberly Dockery and Matthew Dockery both face charges of sexual crimes against animals and tampering with physical evidence. The investigation is ongoing, and police say additional charges may be filed.
Hartford, Kentucky, a peaceful town where the biggest concern is usually the weather forecast or a quiet community event. But that tranquility shattered when police received a tip that would lead them into the darkest corners of human behavior. What began as a routine call quickly spiraled into an urgent investigation, fueled by shocking photographic evidence. The details? Too disturbing for most to even imagine. Investigators uncovered graphic proof of a crime so vile it left seasoned officers at a loss for words. A couple's actions, hidden behind the closed doors of a seemingly normal home, would ignite outrage, not just in their small town, but far beyond. As authorities searched the property, each new discovery pushed the boundaries of disbelief. Electronics were seized, revealing even more unsettling secrets, and two innocent dogs were removed from the scene, a silent testament to the horror they endured. This is the story of Matthew and Kimberly Dockery, a case that has left a community asking why. What drives people to commit such unimaginable acts? And what will justice look like for those who can't speak for themselves? Over the next minutes, we'll walk through the events that led to this moment, unravel the investigation, and uncover the consequences of their crimes. Get ready, because this isn't just a story. It's a chilling reminder of the fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Welcome to Criminal Echoes, where we dive deep into the stories that disturb and demand justice. What do you think the authorities will find as this case unfolds? Let us know in the comments below. We want to hear your theories. And if you're new here, don't leave without subscribing to our channel. At Criminal Echoes, we unravel the darkest mysteries and bring you the stories that deserve to be heard. Hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when we uncover the truth behind the next case. Together, let's keep the echo of justice alive. It started with a single call, a call that would change everything. Late one evening, Hartford police received an anonymous tip. The voice on the other end was calm, but carried a weight that sent a chill through the dispatcher. The caller claimed to have evidence, photos, and videos that revealed something no one in their small Kentucky town could ever have imagined. They wouldn't go into much detail over the phone, only that the content was deeply disturbing and involved acts of cruelty that would shake anyone to their core. When the tip arrived at the station, it came in a plain envelope, unmarked, with no indication of its origin. Inside were several printed photographs and a USB drive. Officers gathered in a quiet corner of the station to review the contents. What they saw left them speechless. It wasn't just the horrific nature of what was depicted, it was the sheer premeditation behind it. Each image told a story, one more unsettling than the last, and each frame brought a growing sense of urgency. The room was silent, the air heavy with unease. The officers exchanged glances, each one silently asking the same question: how could anyone be capable of this? The decision to act was made in an instant. There was no room for delay. Somewhere out there, the individuals behind these acts were walking free, and two innocent animals were at the center of it all. That night, the station buzzed with activity. Phones rang, evidence was documented, and plans were set in motion. As the clock ticked toward midnight, one thing became clear. This wasn't just an investigation, it was a race against time. The phone call that reached the Hartford Police Department was chilling, not for the words spoken, but for the grim imagery it promised. Enclosed in the anonymous tip were photographs and videos, haunting, irrefutable evidence of a crime that few could fathom. The room where officers gathered to review the material became silent, save for the hum of the projector. What they saw left hardened investigators exchanging uneasy glances, a weight settling over the team. Determined to act quickly, police launched what would become one of the most unsettling investigations in recent memory. The tip provided one critical lead: the identity of the woman in the footage. Her name, Kimberly Dockery, was tied to an address on the outskirts of town. a modest house hidden behind an overgrown hedge, its weathered exterior betraying no sign of the horrors within. Before dawn the next day, officers secured a search warrant and prepared for what awaited them. The scene was tense as a convoy of police vehicles approached the house. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, their quiet curiosity giving way to hushed conversations. When the door creaked open, the air seemed to shift. Inside, the home appeared deceptively ordinary. Framed family photos on the walls, a faint scent of vanilla candles. But as investigators moved further in, their unease deepened. The living room, the bedroom, even the quiet hum of a laptop charging in the corner seemed to hold their breath. Then they found it. A collection of electronic devices meticulously hidden beneath a pile of laundry in a bedroom closet. Hard drives, memory cards, and phones, all carefully stashed away. As officers bagged the evidence, the Dockerys remained silent, their expressions betraying nothing. But the most heart-wrenching discovery came next. 2 dogs, a golden retriever and a mixed breed, cowered in a corner. Their eyes darted nervously between the strangers in uniforms. Though they couldn't speak, their trembling bodies told a story that needed no words. What was on those devices? What horrors had these animals endured? Investigators couldn't know just yet, but the mounting evidence hinted at something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. And as the dogs were led out into the crisp Kentucky air, their freedom symbolized the first fragile step toward justice in a case that was only beginning to unfold. The knock on the door came just after sunrise. For neighbors along the quiet street in Hartford, Kentucky, it might have seemed like just another day. But for Matthew and Kimberly Dockery, it was the moment their secret world unraveled. Police officers, armed with a search warrant, stood on the porch with grim determination. Inside the house, silence fell heavy, broken only by the hesitant creak of the door opening. What the officers found inside wasn't chaos or panic, but an eerie stillness, as though the air itself carried the weight of unspoken guilt. Matthew stood frozen in the hallway, his gaze avoiding the officers. Kimberly, just a few steps behind, clutched a phone tightly as if it could shield her from what was coming. Without hesitation, investigators moved through the house, meticulously combing every room. Electronic devices were carefully collected, tablets, laptops, and phones, all now potential keys to unlocking the truth. Evidence bags filled quickly as officers worked in methodical silence, their expressions unreadable but resolute. Outside, 2 dogs were gently removed by animal control officers. The dogs, oblivious to the storm brewing around them, wagged their tails at the strangers, a heartbreaking reminder of their innocence. Their departure from the home signaled a shift in the investigation, from suspicion to confirmation. When the officers finally turned to the Dockerys, there was no dramatic outburst, no desperate denial. Kimberly looked away, her face pale, while Matthew's hands clenched into fists at his sides. The words that followed were as cold as they were final. Matthew and Kimberly Dockery, you are under arrest. Handcuffs clicked into place, the sound echoing through the hallway like the closing of a chapter. As they were led out of the house, the early morning light cast long shadows on the driveway. Neighbors, peeking out from their windows, whispered in disbelief. The couple they had once greeted with casual waves was now at the center of a chilling crime that no one could have imagined. At the Ohio County Detention Center, the Dockerys faced the formal charges: sexual crimes against animals and tampering with physical evidence. The weight of those words hung in the air, setting the tone for what lay ahead. But for the investigators, this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of uncovering the full scope of the case. The community held its breath, waiting for answers as the justice system prepared to hold the Dockerys accountable. But with every new development, one question lingered in the minds of all who heard the story. How much darker could the truth become? The news of Matthew and Kimberly Dockery's arrest spread like wildfire across Hartford, Kentucky, leaving the community grappling with disbelief and disgust. Hartford, a place where neighbors greeted each other with smiles and shared casseroles, had suddenly become the center of a national spotlight. The locals, who prided themselves on their close-knit bonds, were shaken to their core. Whispers echoed in the aisles of the grocery store, in coffee shops, and even in church pews. Did you hear what they found in that house? murmured one woman, her voice trembling with a mix of horror and morbid curiosity. Many avoided discussing the grisly details, unable to stomach the thought, while others demanded answers. How could this happen here? How did no one notice the signs? Law enforcement officials, though trained to remain stoic, admitted that this case was unlike anything they'd encountered before. Officer Daniels, one of the lead investigators, described the evidence as unthinkable in a brief statement to the press. His voice cracked ever so slightly, betraying the emotional toll of the investigation. For weeks, he and his team had been piecing together a puzzle that grew darker with every revelation. Meanwhile, animal rights activists began to rally around the case, sparking debates both online and in town halls. A candlelight vigil was held outside the police department, where a small crowd gathered, holding signs that read, "Justice for the voiceless and protect our animals." The vigil was silent, except for the soft sniffles of a woman clutching a photograph of her own dog. Hartford was no longer just a sleepy town. It was now a battleground between those demanding swift justice and those grappling with the sheer weight of the situation. The town's sense of innocence was gone, replaced by an undercurrent of suspicion. Behind every kind smile, there was now a flicker of doubt. Could there be more darkness lurking beneath the surface of our community? The tension only deepened when a press conference was held. The chief of police stepped up to the podium, flanked by officers who had worked tirelessly on the case. Cameras clicked, and the room fell into a tense silence. "This is a deeply troubling case," he began, his eyes scanning the crowd as if searching for understanding. "We are committed to uncovering the full extent of the crimes committed and ensuring justice is served." Despite the promise of action, the case raised uncomfortable questions. Were there more victims? Were there others involved? These questions lingered like a storm cloud, leaving the town restless. For Hartford, this wasn't just about justice for the animals or holding the Dockerys accountable. It was about reclaiming their sense of security and ensuring that such a violation of trust and morality could never happen again. The case of Matthew and Kimberly Dockery was far from over. As investigators delved deeper into the evidence, the story began to unravel in ways that no one could have predicted. The electronic devices seized from their home held the promise of more revelations, files, messages, and digital trails that could expose the full extent of their actions. Each piece of data was like a ticking time bomb, threatening to reveal even darker secrets. Behind closed doors, detectives sifted through hours of recovered footage, painstakingly piecing together the Dockerys' hidden world. Every file opened came with the unsettling possibility of uncovering more victims, more innocent lives that might have been drawn into their web. But the question that haunted the team wasn't just what they had already found, it was what else could be out there. Rumors swirled in the small town as the investigation continued. Neighbors whispered about the strange comings and goings at the Dockery residence, each memory now steeped in suspicion. Were there other animals involved? Could there be accomplices? And most terrifying of all, what would justice look like for crimes this monstrous? As the legal system prepared for the weight of this case, prosecutors hinted at the possibility of additional charges. Tampering with evidence, authorities said, might only scratch the surface of the Dockerys' alleged crimes. The community braced itself for what might come next, torn between the need for answers and the dread of hearing the truth. Every new day in Hartford carried with it a heavy silence. A silence broken only by the buzz of media reports, the murmurs of concerned residents, and the looming realization that this case was unlike anything their town had seen before. For now, the Dockerys awaited their fate behind bars, but for the investigators, their work was far from done. The courtroom was silent as the Dockerys were escorted in, their expressions devoid of remorse. The weight of their crimes hung heavy in the air, a palpable reminder of the unthinkable betrayal they had committed against the innocent lives in their care. As the prosecutor began laying out the evidence, each detail felt like another stone added to the already overwhelming pile of disbelief. But beyond the walls of the courthouse, this case had already stirred something greater. It wasn't just a crime. It was a confrontation with humanity's darkest instincts. Animal rights groups rallied, their voices echoing a resounding plea for change. The streets of Hartford, usually quiet, saw vigils held for the two rescued dogs, now symbolizing a collective fight for justice. The investigation, though seemingly thorough, left lingering questions. How long had this gone unnoticed? What horrors still lay hidden on the seized devices? And above all, why? As the community awaits the final verdict, one thing is certain: this case isn't just about punishment, it's about redemption, advocacy, and ensuring no other creatures endure what these dogs did. For Hartford, it's a wound that won't heal soon. For the world, it's a call to vigilance. If this story left an echo in your mind, we want to hear your voice. Do you think justice will be served in this case? And what can be done to protect the innocent from crimes like this? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Your opinion matters here at Criminal Echoes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community. At Criminal Echoes, we dive deep into the shadows of justice, uncovering the stories that demand to be heard. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss the next case we investigate together. Let's amplify the call for justice, because every voice adds to the echo.